today we're going to have a look at rigging. I know many of you have been waiting for this, and I know many of you have no interest in it. But for those with no interest, let me just start off with that rigging is not just for clothes. You can use it as an aid to shaping your models and things like that, which we'll kind of do first. To explain rigging, well, if we use a Shift A, we've got an option here to add an armature, and this adds a bone. Okay, so a bone on its own will do nothing. You'll move it about, but it do nothing. It's got to affect the mesh. But before we get to the mesh, let me just show you the first thing. Is we go into edit mode, and we kind of got three sections to the bone. We've got the base, we've got a middle, and we've got a head. So it's called a head, and that's the head. Tail. So it's called a head and tail, and then you obviously the connection in between. If you select the tail and extrude, you create a new connected bone. Right. So from that we could go to pose mode, and if we select a bone here and rotate it, you'll see anything extruded from it rotates with it. Okay. But to make use of this, we need some geometry for it to influence. So let me just delete this. What should I do? Let's add a Bezier curve here for a minute. Let's go to top view, and let's edit this. Let's actually select all of those and scale them to 0 on the x-axis, SX0 on the y-axis. So escape out of that, SY0. So we've got this nice flat thing, and I'm just going to add a taper with a bevel, or bevel with a taper rather. So let's actually scale this on the x-axis, make it longer. So we got that, and that was Control T. No, it wasn't. That T was twist. I forgot now. We only did it last week. 1 second. Alt S. That was it. So let me just do Alt S, and let's bring this down. Let's right click. Let's go into object mode. Let's right click and convert to mesh. So 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, 9, 12. Alright. So let me just add a UV sphere here and make the segments 12. Let me rotate it on the y-axis, Y90. Let's grab it on the X. Okay, let's delete this pole in here. X vertices. Let's select this edge loop. Should select this edge loop. And edges, bridge edge loops. There we go. Make a join there. Alright, so I've got this object here. Let me rotate it on the y-axis again. wk39. Right, I'm just going to a front view here and I'm just going to grab it up on the Z-axis, bring it just above the, or just on the grid there, somewhere about there. Right, so let us add some bones to this and rig this. So Shift A and we'll add an armature. Okay, so there's this bone here. We can see it's kind of outside and inside the object. If we come to the object data for the armature and we come to viewport display, we've got an option here for in front, so that will show the whole bone regardless of the object, which you will probably use most, because if you're doing clothing or anything else, your bones are going to be inside the body, so you'll need this in front to see it. We've also got different types of bone displays. So as displays octahedral, you can display them as sticks, B-bone, which I've never seen used really, envelope and wire. Okay, the most common ones are octahedral and stick. I tend to use octahedral, okay, because it gives a clear indication of which is a head and which is a tail. Let's go to a front view again. Right, I've got the bone selected. Let me edit the bone. I've got the tail selected, so let me extrude another one upwards and do that a couple of times. So I'm covering this. Okay, I'm just going to do one more into the kind of middle here. Right, so let's go into object mode again. If I first select my mesh, shift select my bone and control P to parent it, and we'll use with automatic weights. Okay, so now if I select my armatures and I tab into pose mode, if I select one of these bones, say I rotate it, select this one, rotate it that way, select this one, rotate it kind of back up, select this one, rotate it. Let's come back into object mode. Let me hide the armature. That's going to hide everything. No, it's just in the armature. You can see how I've managed to quickly shape this kind of pin thing. Alright, so we could use that. So if I wanted to freeze that mesh, I would select the mesh. I would go to my modifiers tab and simply apply the modifier. Okay, then I could delete the armature and this would be a static frozen mesh. Alright, but I'm not going to do that. What I want to do, let's see if I can step this back straight enough. Supposing for some reason, let's go, let's select this object, go to object mode, select this object and let's edit that. Let's select two faces here. So I'm going to select this face and I'm going to select this face. No, I'll do them one at a time. It's going to be easier. Let's extrude that out the EX. Okay. And let me add a few loop cups here with Control R. No, that was repeat. Shift C. It is Control R. There we go. I must have miskeyed it. So let me add a few loop cuts here. Okay, let's select a face on this side. Say this one. 3. Let's select this face. Extrude on the X. Come in. Let's add a few loop cuts for that. Control R. Right. So let's go back into object mode. Let's select our armature. And let's go into edit mode. What I'm going to do is select the tail of this bone here. And extrude it out this way. Then extrude it to fill up this kind of arm. I'm not making anything particular here, I'm just kind of demonstrating the process. Okay, so I've extruded this across this way, but if I come back to this tail end of this bone again, okay, and I extrude the other way, I'm not being terribly accurate. Let's just go to a top view and you can see bones are outside the mesh, so I'm just going to grab this and move it into the center so it's inside the mesh. And let's do the same here. Right, so bone is inside the mesh, as it should be. Right, let's go back to object mode. Let me select this object, whatever you want to call it, and shift select the armature, Control P with automatic weights. Okay, now if I select the armature again, tab, pose mode, I rotate this, you can see the rest of the bone structure follows, but I can also rotate these arms. So let's rotate that on the Z axis. Let's do that same. Let's go to top view here. Let's kind of do the same here. Okay, so object mode. Right, so if I wanted to keep this shape, well, let's do, before we do that, let's just do a little kind of wiggle down here, shall we? So let's tab into pose mode, rotate this one, rotate this one, rotate this one. Okay, back in object mode. So I've got this shape I've made. Let me just hide the armature. Quite quickly using an armature, using bones. If I wanted to keep this shape here, because if I was to tab this into edit mode, you can see it bounces back. Come to the modifiers panel and apply. Now it's frozen. Okay, so I could release my armature again, select my armature, simply delete it, and there I've got this mesh. So that is a very kind of basic way of using an armature to influence a mesh to make shapes.